Hey everyone, thanks for downloading Garden Fork Radio. This is the audio companion to my video show, Garden Fork TV. We're in the office. There's two Labradors here. Let's see if they have anything to say. Who's hungry for dinner? Henry usually does the talking, and Charlie stands there and stamps her feet. Will you stamp your feet for me? Come here. Henry. Henry. What time is it? Henry has really bad breath, so I usually like to feed her before she starts barking even more at me. I think it's just Labrador breath. Come on, girls, let's go downstairs. So summer is, I think for everyone, the busy time of the year. I've just been slammed with work. The power went out up at our little weekend house. That was a drama. Charlie pup fell out of bed. We had to take her to the vet. And now we're going to have some dinner. So you guys can listen to me feed the labs. And then I'm going to take you on a little project tour here. Okay? Come here, girls. Henny, move back. Right here. Sit down. You know the rules. I'm not changing the rules just because there's a video recorder here, right? Charlie, over here. Sit down. Good girl. So just to have some control in the world, I make the dogs sit before dinner because I think that just kind of keeps them on point about who's allegedly the boss, you know? There's kind of a process to dinner. They know that. So they get different foods. Henry's on a special diet. But they do like one thing in their dinner. And that is an egg, which is really good for them. Whoa, just broke an egg right in the container. That was nice. Do you get egg all over your hands when you break eggs? I do. All right, we'll deal with the broken egg later. How's that? That'll be a fun one. What happened to sitting down? Charlie, up. Sit down. All right. So they're having dinner. They'll be like calm for about 10 minutes, and then they'll come back at me. So I want to take you around a little bit of a tour here. I've been just kind of jamming on getting some work done in the house, but of course there's been a heat wave over most of the country, and the Northeast has certainly had their fair share of that. 98 degrees up at the little weekend house. That's kind of crazy. So we're going to go upstairs here, and I'm going to tell you a little bit. I'm going to try and be like NPR and tell a visual story about what's going on here. I got the fans running. I'm going to go up a ladder here. Do you have a ladder in your house? If you live in a row house, you have a ladder, probably go into your roof, and a hatch. Thankfully my hatch is a newer one. Wow. You should go on your roof. It's really pretty amazing. It's actually cooled down. It's a flat rubber roof and it's painted silver. So when you walk out here, it's like walking on aluminum foil. And in the middle of the day, man, is that bright. I'm looking at New York Harbor right now. We're on a side street in Brooklyn, and so the row houses are all connected, and we're on a hill, so I can look down at the New York Bay. I can see Manhattan. I see the new World Trade Center. Is it called One World Trade? I don't know. I always call it the World Trade Center. But the roof here is a rubber roof, and it has several skylights in it. There originally was one skylight in every row house. Well, maybe there were two. In the common hallway of the building, there was a natural light skylight. And I think that was a building code thing. When they just had gas lights, maybe it was to light that hallway during the day. And also to provide some ventilation, because the top of the skylight has a vent in it. At least they used to, unless they've been replaced. And then there used to be a air shaft in each row house, and some people here still have that, and there's a skylight on that. And then some of them, that's been covered up and used as space. A lot of people use it as a riser, an electrical and plumbing riser, to bring upgraded infrastructure into the house. Here on my roof, there are 3 skylights, one for the common hallway and 2 for the 3rd floor apartment. And they were these like 1970s kind of plexiglass dome style skylights. If you have a 1970s home, or if you can think back that far, think about the Brady Bunch. The skylights then were these kind of plastic dome things of that style in that era. And sunlight was not kind to them. They, UV light will destroy almost anything. And it destroyed the skylights, and they were cracked, and it looked like a meteorite had hit them or something. But I think it's just the hot, cold had caused all the domes to crack. And that would leak, not necessarily water, thankfully, in my point, but just cold air would get in the winter. So I finally bit the bullet and ordered replacement skylights from a company called Velux. They're not a sponsor or anything, but you can buy them at the big home improvement centers. You have to order them and have them delivered. But they make a couple of them that fit. They basically measured the old school dome plexiglass skylights, and they built these replacement skylights to literally drop right on. And of course we have a video about that, because the first one I did a couple years ago I made a video about, and it was like butter. You pull off the old one, you drop the new one on, and you're screwed in, and it's the easiest thing in the world. But I've learned a couple things since then, so I thought we'd make a podcast while you're driving in your car. You can listen to Eric talk about skylights. Very exciting. The skylights are mounted on what's called a curb. And I've been trying to think about how I would describe to people what a curb is. Well, if you have a flat roof and you cut a hole in the roof, it's kind of like cutting the hole in the bottom of a bathtub. The water is just going to run right into that hole. So to keep the rainwater from running into that hole, you need to build up something to mount the skylight on, and that is called a curb. And if you could imagine a baking sheet, like a 9x13 baking sheet, turn it upside down, and then cut a rectangle out of the center, leaving like a 1 inch around the whole edge there. And that's what a curb is. It's a kind of a deep picture frame or a baking pan that has a rectangle cut out of the center. And what that does is it allows you to build the curb up. Then you would take EPDM, which is a rubber roofing, or flashing, or another rubberized material, and build that up and connect it with the existing roof. And then you put a skylight on that. Now I'm lucky in that the decks were already there. So, I mean, the curbs were already here, and it's actually been built up several times because there's been several generations of skylights. So the curb is actually about a foot high at this point. But I was having a problem with a water leak in one of them, and I was like, what is causing this water leak? Because it's a brand new skylight. and I realized that when I had replaced the first skylight, which is a video we made, I'll post a link to it. It's from a couple years back. The original skylight the curb is aluminum. It's very thin aluminum. And imagine in the winter you have very cold air on one side, the outside of that aluminum curb, and on the inside, because it's the top of a building, it's the top ceiling, you have very hot air right on the inside of that. And so you get condensation on that warm inside wall of the curb. Much like a glass of cold water on a hot day, you get condensation on that. On the warm side of the glass, you'll get water collecting. So when I replaced the skylight, it had this really flimsy styrofoam insulation glued against the curb, and that stuff fell off. And I didn't think much about it. I just thought, what's this crud? And of course I wasn't thinking. And what I realized was on that skylight that the insulation was missing from was leaking. Essentially the water was condensing along the aluminum walls of the curb, and then dripping down and running along a little right-angled ledge to the bottom corner, the lowest corner of the curb, and dripping down the sheetrock. So in addition to replacing the skylights this time, I also replaced all that styrofoam insulation. And I couldn't figure out how to glue it. I didn't really have a product to do that. I guess I could have got like some sort of 3M spray product, but I wanted it to stay and hold. So I used self-tapping screws with giant fender washers, and about every foot I screwed those in. And so now I've got new insulation on the one that was leaking, and also on the new skylights that I did today and yesterday. I cut styrofoam and dropped those in. Well, so I screwed that to the interior of the curb so we won't have the condensation problem. I also thought about maybe doing spray foam on the outside of the curb. But spray foam, most of it is not UV stable, so I would have to paint it. And then I was wondering whether the weather would beat it up, because I've seen spray foam that's exposed to the outside, and it always looks kind of grungy. I love spray foam, by the way. So that worked out pretty well, and then I put on the skylights, and they dropped right into place. It's really quite nice. One of them is a vented skylight. It's a manual vent. You can get ones with electric motors that'll open it and close it, but I just thought, that's one more thing to break in 10 years. And these skylights will last a lot longer than that. So I'd rather not have the motor break and then have to replace it, because the vented skylight was almost 3 times as much as the unvented skylight was. Here comes, I think, the NYPD. They're everywhere these days, but we like them, so it's good for that. And so there you go. So I've got these skylights mounted. They have a really nice gasket to seal onto the existing curb. And I used self-tapping screws, and I got a new drill driver set from Bosch, and I'll link in the show notes to it. And I was really kind of blown away. I have these Ryobi 14-volt drills, and I've had them, cordless screw guns, and I've had them for like 15 years, but the batteries were finally dying. And I was like, the batteries are $65 a piece, and they're the old NiCad type. And for the price of new batteries, I could probably buy a new drill driver. And Bosch had this really nice kit for about 130 bucks it was. And they're 12-volt lithium batteries. And I was ready to buy some 18-volt giant ones, thinking I don't really need 18-volt, it's overkill for what I do, but I didn't really have a choice. And I looked at these things and I realized that they're small and powerful. They were highly rated on that site called I can't remember the name of the site. I'll link to it in the show notes here. But they review stuff like that, home goods and stuff. It's called I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name. Anyway, I picked some up and I was blown away because they're 12 volt, but they are super powerful. And I think unless you're a contractor working 10 hours a day, you don't need that giant 18 volt. The batteries recharge in 30 minutes. There is a regular cordless drill and then an impact driver as well. And they fit into your pocket. So it's really cool as you can just drop this into your front pocket and climb up a ladder. You don't need to have another thing on your tool belt. The only thing is if you bend over, sometimes the trigger gets pulled because the pocket tightens up, but that was fine. But that was really handy because I use these self-tapping screws, so I use the impact driver and just boop, 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 boom, go right in. The only problem is the impact driver can actually put the screws in too tight. I tried it when I was putting in the styrofoam, and that was kind of a mistake. But, we learn. So, but, wow, a good project. Of course, I chose the lesser of the hot days to do this, but I needed to get it done. Just kind of get it off the bucket list there. The next project is going to be building a wall downstairs. And up at the house, updating my generator. I'm going to tune up the generator. I ordered oil filter, spark plug, fuel filters, and I have oil already. And I'll make a video about that because the power went out up there after the big storms, and I think people kind of forget about their generator until they need it. And you should really run the thing once a month under power. Put it into your transfer panel or plug in some. If you have some halogen work lights or something, be careful that when you plug them in, there should be a 110 volt plug probably on the side of the portable generator. Plug something into each of those plugs so that the load is balanced on the generator, because the generator is generating, I'm going to get in trouble for this, but 2 fields of power. The generator has 2 windings, and you have to balance the pull on those. I've been told. So there you go. Just kind of a brain dump here. So Garden Fork Radio is my iTunes podcast. It's a couple of times a month, sometimes weekly, depending on how busy I am. Kind of brain dump from Eric and my friends. Coming up, we'll have a show with Rick and a show with Will from the Weekend Homestead, and Erin, the Impatient Gardener. We got a lot to talk about. Erin just was on a sailing trip, the Mackinac Island, the Chicago to Mackinac race, and she did not lose her phone in Lake Michigan this time, so that was a good thing. All right, questions or comments, radio@gardenfork.tv is the thing. For more information about me, that's in the show notes. And a big thank you to my patrons on Patreon. If you're interested in supporting Garden Fork and keeping this stuff coming to you, you can learn more about that. It's patreon.com/gardenfork. Again, the link to that will be in the show notes as well. And there's also some one-time donors recently that have blown me away. You can also make a one-time contribution to Garden Fork via PayPal. And I got a couple recently, and it is always fantastic. So make it a great day, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.